Hank, my friend Hank has been at almost every 140 conference I've done. He's someone that is an influencer. He's a teacher, he's an educator, he's an author. He teaches at USC Marshall. Yeah. And he also, if you remember, if you've watched any of the Mad Men episodes, he truly is, he denies it now, but one of the characters in the TV show, I'm sure, was based on his life, because in the 1960s, he was one of the Mad Men. But give it up, please, to my friend Hank. Please, come on.
Hey, Jeff.
Thank you.
As always. Thanks a lot. I hope this is on. My subject is brands. It's near and dear to my heart, and I know it's near and dear to a lot of your hearts. I love you, my friend Dean. And because they're important, and they're going to get much, much more important as time goes by. So I'm going to talk to you about a new mindset to look at brands in the future. It's called open book branding. And that's going to leverage the power of being open. And Jeff talked a little bit. I want to tell you why open brands are going to thrive and how I got here with this. And here's what I'm a mashup of. I did start in the Mad Men era at Benton & Bowles in 1965. I'm lucky to be working with my son and 5 or 6 friends in a nice creative company downtown called the Concept Farm. Long about when my career was just about in its twilight, I met a wonderful behavioral psychologist, Dr. Kathy Kramer, who introduced me to something called asset-based thinking. We co-authored 2 books together, and I look at life through what's working and possible, not what's problematic and broken, and it informs everything that I do. And last but not least, I mentioned USC Marshall. I'm back in the class, all Trojans go, right? It's being with the next digital generation coming out every week is absolutely mind-blowing, inspiring. I learn from them all the time. One of my students is here, Eileen. Hello, I love you. She got an A-, by the way. She was terrific. And so that's it. I just want to show you one thing. This is a picture of me when I started at Benton & Bowles in 1965. Why I had that, I have no idea. But it's there just to show you for a little humility and where I am now and how things have changed. But also, things haven't changed. And I've been at this now, it's my 5th decade in this business. And it is wonderful. I'm inspired by it. And just about the time I was ready to leave it, you guys came along with social media, and Jeff and the world embraced me, and it's energized me to be in it with a vengeance and a passion. And I'll turn 68 in 2 weeks, and this is the best time I've ever had. And the future is golden and bright, I'm telling you. And here's why. Here's why I believe that. First of all, the consumer is now in control of marketing. Incredible. They're the 5th P of the marketing mix. Product, price, place, promotion, people, the social marketing mix. It rules. Second, brands live in glass houses. The wall-closed compounds of the past are gone. And third, consumers and people matter. We have a voice behind the brand. Finally, our voices will be heard. That's energizing. Look through the lens of traditional marketing. That can be constraining. We look at it as being open and moving, and that is inspiring. And to practice open book branding, you got to change the way you look at this. That word, control. And control, I talked about the consumers being in control of marketing. But I hear so much today about companies saying we got to turn control of our brand over to the consumer. I say that is the worst thing you can do. Get that thought out of your mind. You have to, with a consumer in control today, be much more in control of your brand than you ever have been. And you have to change the way you see control with a different perspective, where you put it. It's not semantics, so I want to talk a little bit about that. This is where you have to control your brand. In positioning, the cornerstone of everything that happens. It is the fundamental positioning, what your brand stands for in the minds, heart, and soul of your consumer. Focus on that fundamental control. So I say, forget about worrying about all those other things at the end. Focus at the beginning and control this. Control what matters. A rock-solid brand positioning, informed and refined by consumer insights. That's passionately embraced and infused culturally throughout your company. No compromises. Then you got to communicate it respectfully and honestly with consumers, and then deliver it fervently and passionately. That's where you have to exercise control what matters. And then when you do, that's when you let that happen. You let go. Your brand flies. You watch it thrive. You watch it really be touched and embraced by consumers, and that's how you let go of control. And that is where it's got to go. So I think that is real important. And that's where open book branding comes into play. And open book branding, for me, was inspired by that. Open book management. It's a great management philosophy that says, it started in the mid-90s, it's pretty popular these days and growing, but it says you empower your employees with everything that they need to know about the company, from P&Ls all the way through to performance reviews and where they fit, so they become better, more empowered people, and they make your company better. And that is what open book branding is based upon. And it's based upon these things. It's built on a platform of 3 T's: trust, transparency, and truth. And you create culture that has meaning and matters, and then you need a leader to stand up and stick with it. And so I'm going to give you a few principles that I think open book brands are built on. And the first is, you have to have an open mindset. Not just be open to things, but aggressively want to share everything you can about your brand and your business with your constituencies, your employees, your consumer. Anything that you can do to help them make a better decision, do it. Even if it might influence you a little bit negatively short term, do it. Make better decisions and resist the urge to hold things back. Go at it with a vengeance. The second thing you have to do is turn the glass house into an open house. Be open 24/7, where you're going to invite consumers in. Make it magnetic. Share stories, share news, share programs. Why not put your whole promotional program and calendar on there for them to see? Why not let them know why your brand is worth it? If you think that's all and you're going to be worried about competitors and give away competitive information, get over it. They know it all anyway. We know that. And of course, things are going to get screwed up. This happened in Ad Age did things that are going to get messed up in the whole social media screw-ups. We know about Motrin Moms and Target. But underneath that, there's also the story of Domino's. I look at that as a wonderful story. They turned employees behaving badly in social media. They had an enlightened CEO that addressed it quickly with trust, transparency, and truth. And they used it as a way to change the positioning of their company and say, we are going to market our brand with quality and truth. It's a wonderful story because this is the first time that I can remember where how you handle the problem is more important than the problem itself. So transparency differentiates. The next thing is you need an open organization. Most companies have organized in the past around organizations that have been closed around hard assets, organized around soft assets. And an open organization is human first. Humanizing brands is a movement. Just take a look at what happened. This is Ad Age, an article 6 months ago about the ANA conference. That's all you heard. You heard stories about people, purpose, passion, pride, driving profits. That is a wonderful environment to be in. Next, you have to make sure you open inside. Be ready to open inside before you open outside. That means informed employees, empowered employees that are proud of what they do. I would submit to you that that is where your best marketing money is spent. Empowered employees are the best marketing investment and the cheapest, most effective media you can buy. And my shining light in that is Tony Hsieh at Zappos. He was at the World Innovation Forum last week. And to hear him talk about his open culture and how they are not worried about people talking to consumers. He said, if I worried about that, I'm hiring the wrong people. Shining light. And here's one that I borrowed from my good friend Liz Strauss. Liz might be out there, but this is a slide I stole from her. Sorry, Liz. But it's about when you're building a brand, open brands are about community. Raise a barn rather than build a coliseum. Do something that's irresistible, that you're going to build something together that you couldn't build alone. Those are terrific things, aren't they? Won't you want to be building brands that do that rather than closed brands that hide everything? So when you look at that, and you're a CMO, and now you have to say, I've got to be always open to deal with this. So the marketing structures and the CMOs that you're going to be facing in the future have to be different. They have to change. And they have to change because we said this. Their brands are, people are coming at them in all different directions. That control can take many different things. So they got to be better at listening and learning than we ever been. It's a different structure than they have. Next, we've worked in a linear structure where we would be buying eyeballs. Now, with everything that we're doing, you heard Dennis up here earlier about social and where it goes, we are doing much more than that. The consumers become part of it, and we are buying consumers' minds, hearts, souls, friendships, and everything else. That means you have to have a much different CMO, not the command and control CMO that's structured before. You have to have a CMO that's a maestro, that is going to be really orchestrating many, many different things and listening and bringing out the best of everything that is in that orchestra. And I love what Seth Godin had to say about that. It's no longer the chief marketing officer, it's the chief movement officer, and that's what it is. I would add to that that it is also the chief responsibility officer. With everything I just said about social and how the consumer has been opened up into the marketing plans and in control, we have got to treat them with the respect and confidence and confidentiality that they deserve. People that abuse it will lose, and you have to be open with it. So that's an open brand. An open brand is one it's marketing at its best because it's built on trust, transparency, and truth. And product, people, and purpose are in the DNA, and you are obliged to create culture that means something and creates a meaning, whatever that culture might be. So I believe, and I think I hope you do too, that the life story of the brands of the future are going to be an open book. And an open book has really nothing to hide. It just has nothing to hide. And that's the attitude that you have to take. So before I close, I just want to talk to you about one other thing, just one quick thing I'll leave you with. And that is what I love about this from my craft and the advertising craft. This has gotten us back to what marketing has always been meant to be, the art of one-on-one persuasion. And back in 1970, I worked for a guy named Bill Bernbach at Doyle Dane & Bernbach, great time in my formative year. And this is a quote that we had on orientation day from him. We were small enough at that time. And it is what I really believe. And it says, an idea can turn to dust or magic depending upon the creative talent that rubs against it. The creative talent that rubs against it. So if you're going to build an open brand, be a magician, find magicians, hang out with magicians, and love magicians, because creativity makes the world go round. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
I'd like to introduce